Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark, and like you, I'm a professional speaker, and I love listening to Speakernomics. Speakernomics is a professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow a speaking business, so you too can change the world, one keynote, session, workshop, and speech at a time. And on this episode, we welcome Mark Hunter, known as the Sales Hunter. Mark is a certified speaking professional, a CSP, and author of several books on sales and prospecting, and he's got a long career in marketing and sales. Mark, welcome to Speakernomics. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Shark, we're going to have a great conversation today talking about sales.
Absolutely. Now, to all my speaking friends, do you have a mind for sales? As we know, the market is competitive. There's a lot of speakers out there, but you've got to have the right strategies in place to make the phone ring. Stay engaged with decision makers, connect with them on a personal level, and then if you're lucky, fill the calendar with a speaking gig on that date, on that stage. There's so much more to making the sale and the mindset than just the act of selling. And before we jump in, make sure to go to Speakernomics.com. That's where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. Mark, let's dive in. So I want to know today in this market, what are you doing to really drum up sales?
The biggest thing that I do is I have 5 conversations a day. 5 conversations a day. Here's what I've found. If I can have 5 conversations a day, guess what? My pipeline is going to be full and my calendar is going to be full. What do I mean by a conversation? It's like what you and I are having right now. It might be a scheduled meeting with a bureau. It might be a scheduled meeting with a prospect, but it may be outbound calls. In other words, I'm calling, I'm following up on a lead, I'm doing something. But the key that I have found, we don't have to make this complicated. We in the speaking industry can really screw up a 2-car funeral pretty easily. It's just having conversations. But that means, you know what? You got to pick up the phone. Hello, folks. If we can stand on a stage and talk to hundreds, talk to thousands of people at a time, we can certainly pick up the phone and have a conversation with one person.
Yeah, it's like Willie Jelly says, TTP and TTMP. Talk to people and talk to more people. But you know, so many people have the farmer mindset as opposed to the hunter mindset. We see this over and over. We love to plant seeds and we love to believe that everything's going to grow and then people are going to start knocking on every one of our doors. And for most speakers, that's not what happens. So talk about the mindset that made you maybe not even shift, but where you stayed out of the farming mentality and got to more of the hunting mentality.
Yeah, hey, there's a place for farming.
Absolutely. You got to successful speakers hunt and farm.
They do because farming is where you lay the groundwork with. But here's the deal. I see so many people. Well, man, that post had 1,000 likes or 1,000. Hey, I can't take clicks and likes to the bank. I'm sorry. I've got over 300,000 followers on LinkedIn alone. Big deal. That doesn't even get me a cup of coffee at Waffle House. Now, there you go. Now, I can't even say Starbucks. I can't even say Waffle House. So here's the deal. I have got to put content out there because people are going to search before they call many times. I totally get that. But I'll tell you what, I can't rely on that. That inbound phone call, that is not going to be enough to feed my family. I'm sorry, it's not. I've got to be engaging. I've got to be making outbound phone calls. But here's where so many speakers fall down. Well, I'm just going to call people. No, get tight. Get very, very tight. I would rather see a speaker take 25 potential events that they want to speak at. And they're going to hone in on those 25. They're going to hone in on those 25. Then do a spray and pray across 100 or send 1,000 emails out to people. No, be focused. And every time you reach out to them, bring value. Bring absolute value. I did a breakout session at Influence this year, and I shared that I had just closed a large deal, large company, 46 touches, 46 contacts with them, 46. Now think about that. That was over the course of about 18 months, but 46 touches. But you know what? I didn't feel bad about any one of those because never once was I saying, buy for me, book me. I was always bringing them value. Now, there was always a CTA in there, but they were ignoring me. But you know what? They never totally rejected me because it wasn't like they blocked my email. It wasn't like they told me to fly a kite. But after 46 touches with them, and that means email, phone call, a couple social media, even some text messages in there, I finally got a response. And once we got the dialogue going, we had a contract signed in 2 weeks. And it's a multi engagement project for 25, 26, and 27. Yeah, was it worth staying in the game for? It certainly was. Hello.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what happens with people why they don't hunt is they do get frustrated after about not even 46 touches, but after about 3, and then they give up. And it's not easy to be a resilient hunter, if you will. But one of my favorite quotes of all time, and I think you're about to say something, but Zig Ziglar said, "Shy salespeople have skinny kids," and I
Yes,
love that.
yes, it is. And this whole thing, I'm comfortable with somebody saying no to me. I hear far more no's than I hear yeses. But you know what that tells me is I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. See, here's the whole deal. We all want a full calendar. We all want a lot of engagements. But we have to do the activities to be able to get the engagements. And the activities, like I said, for me, the activities are 5 conversations a day. I challenge every speaker to have a metric as to what they're going to do on a daily basis. I still contend one of the best books that anybody in this industry can read is Atomic Habits by James Clear, because he just lays out, it's just doing the little things every day. And if I have those 5 conversations, I know that over the course of a week, because now it may take 3, 4, 5 conversations to get one contract delivered because I'm working through things. But I know that if I have 25 conversations a week, I'm probably going to be able to put out a couple contracts, a week. And, and I'm going to close 50%. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, how many of those conversations are with other speakers?
None. I don't count those.
Good.
I only count, in other words, I don't count other speakers. I have a call this afternoon with a fellow speaker. That's not one of my 5 conversations unless we're actively doing a referral.
Right.
In other words, there was a speaker I spoke to yesterday that I had referred another engagement to. I just did them, and wow, this person would be excellent. So I referred that, and I followed up with them, and they said, "Oh wow, hey, you know what? Here's one I got for you." So I counted that as a conversation. But just happy day calls, no, I don't count them. I'm counting you today because this podcast is going to go out and reach hundreds and thousands of people. So in theory,
Potentially millions. It's that good of a show.
Millions, of course, it's that good of a show. Yes.
Exactly. Well, so obviously you're one of many, though, that any meeting planner might consider. And then there's, you do all those touches, you have a great conversation, and then guess what? It gets quiet. How do you stay engaged with them when things are quiet, when we're waiting for them to give us the call back?
Well, this is the whole thing. I'm not going to wait for them to give me the call back. I had an inbound lead that came in by way of social media on Friday. I responded immediately back to the person. We exchanged emails yesterday, and I'm to call the person this afternoon. Now, she had said in the response back, she said, "Hey, I'll follow up with you." And I immediately sent back, because I'm kind of cryptic, in other words, I'm not going to spell out everything because I want to have a conversation. And she said, "I'll follow back up with you." And I followed back up and said, "Hey, there's a lot of questions I'd like to understand about where your event is going. What is it that you're attempting to accomplish? And I gave her a time, Tuesday afternoon, and she responded back, said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and talk." So, I mean, boom. I don't wait for them to respond back to me. And the same thing, I had another situation. This happened to be a company in New Zealand. They happened to be in the audience of an event I did about a month ago. And they had reached out to me. I didn't know they were in the audience, and they reached out to me. And I responded back and didn't get any bite. So I went out and did a little research on the individual and the company and found out, oh, there's some overlap. There's some commonality here. And I immediately sent back the CEO a note and played in the commonality and so forth. And he wrote back, said, "You got me. Let's schedule a meeting." That was exactly what he said. "You got me. Let's schedule a meeting." And we had a meeting Sunday night, my time, Monday, his time in New Zealand. And out of that, then came I'm gonna develop a plan, but I always believe in BAM FAM, book a meeting from a meeting. In other words, I was going to let him off the call until I said, "Hey, what's your calendar look like for your Thursday, my Wednesday? Let's get it on the calendar right now, and I'll have the plan back to you for us to discuss." Now, I'm not going to send it to him until like 30 seconds before we have that call. Boom. Because I want to discuss it with him. I don't want him to review it in my absence. I want him to review it with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to go back to New Zealand now. Beautiful country. So, how do you, when you get them on there, how do you make it about the decision maker really on that sort of personal level? Not about the event or the conference, but really about the person, because a lot of us talk about connecting to people, but forget to actually connect to the person as opposed to the idea of connection only.
Yeah. How we connect personally. Now, this is going to be on several different levels. If I'm dealing with a meeting planner, I'm going to say, hey, what are your personal objectives from this? I know it's to get to the Friday afterwards so you can take a day off, and there's usually a chuckle or so forth. But I always say, and I hear them say, because I used to put on meetings when I was in corporate. I was director of sales for a major corporation. I know the ins and outs and know that sort of stuff. And oftentimes that'll kind of lead into a little bit of a conversation as to what their personal goals are, and then may say, "Yeah, we got to make sure we do this," and so forth. And hey, what are you seeing right now in terms of AV budgets? Oh, wow, and that gets in a little bit of conversation, or okay, I got to ask him, how much are you paying for a gallon of coffee these days? That $65 a gallon is long gone. There's always a chuckle. Oh yeah, it's 145, 155, whatever it is. But that begins to get them to know that I know their business. I understand their business. Now, if I'm dealing with a CEO, if I'm dealing with a senior level officer, I may be addressing something that they belong to a trade association. Because I've gone out on LinkedIn, I've seen they belong to a trade association. I've used Sam Richter's Intel engine to understand where they have been previously, or maybe they know some people and so forth. So I'm going to make some sort of a connection. And again, it's on a little bit of a personal nature. I'm not going to stay down that path unless they want to go down that path. Because sometimes when you're dealing with those people, they don't want to go down a personal path. I get it. So I'll just throw it out there. It's like throwing some bait in the water, right? Is it going to attract anything? If it doesn't attract anything, fine. I step away. But my goal is in conversation, it's not the event. What are the outcomes? Nobody puts on events just for putting on events. No, nobody. I mean, I do a lot of sales kickoff meetings, SKOs, and oh, what's the objective? Well, we're launching 6 new products. We got this, we got this, we got this. That's what I want to zero in on. That's what I want to find out. We are remiss if we focus in on just the meeting itself. What do you want the people to be doing differently as a result of the meeting? If it's an association, I'm going to be focused in on how critical is it for you to get your attendance numbers? What's your membership renewal? What's happening there? How do you create engagement post-conference? I want to hear those things because I'm trying to get them into a conversation that goes bigger than the engagement. Now, guess what? They tend to stay on the phone with me. And guess what? I've got more things I can follow up because now if they go radio silent on me, I can come back and I can play them. Hey, you mentioned that post-conference engagement is a critical issue. Here's 3 things that I've seen other conferences do. Let's grab some time to talk about it. I can pop that in an email. And guess what? It's demonstrating that I'm listening. That's what's key.
How structured are you typically with your calls that you set up with someone? I mean, there are a list of bullet points, obviously, you want to cover, but how much of it do you, because you're talking about opening up more doors with each question, which is a great and smart way to go, but that can also take you off of, points 3, 4, and 5, for example.
Yeah, I never get through all the questions I want to answer because if I run out of questions
Great.
or I've got you to the next step, then I haven't done a good job. So I always want to have more questions left because my goal is to just ask you one question and get you off and talking and sharing about it. Then I'm not going to go on to the next question because I'm going to take whatever it is that you share with me. You might say, yeah, our membership is down 6% or, or 8% or whatever. And I go, oh, that's interesting. So you say it's down 6%. Is that from newer members or older members or what? See, I immediately ask them a follow-up question. And this is just smart listening, right? This is just, again, I'm not selling my keynote. No, what I'm doing is I'm selling a relationship. And I'm selling that I'm connecting with them and I'm listening to them. Well, it's from new members. Oh, wow, because the challenges of bringing in new members is very hard to have them leave after just a year. Yeah, that's a real issue. And it's interesting. I work with a lot of other associations, so I'm going to check around. I won't reveal any proprietary information, but if I hear some ideas, I'm going to follow up with you. Is that okay? Oh yeah, would love to. You see, what am I doing? I'm creating reasons for them to stay engaged with me, and I'm not even talking about the keynote. Now I'm going to come back around and just say, okay, let's talk about the structure. Let's talk about the structure of the meeting. What's your game plan? Because you say it's going to run over 3 days. That's a little bit of a challenge. Do you have a different theme for each day, or what's and I just let them talk, and I'm just listening. I'm just listening. What makes a perfect keynote to your members? What would a fantastic keynote be? Who might be some of those people? Now, interesting. I can ask, who might those people be? Now I can begin to get a sense for what they're willing to pay, because I kind of can guess what fee structures are from others out there. And I begin to say, and then I can follow up and I can play along with it. I can, oh yeah, I just did a couple of events with that person or so and so. Again, it's making connections. It really is so easy. But here's the whole thing. My objective is not to go in with book the date breath. When we go in with book the date breath, hi, I'm my fee is X, and I don't want green M&Ms in the green room, and No, that's book the date breath. I want to go in and just talk to you. Here, listen, find out from you. Because if I can come across to you and be seen as personable and being easy to work with, and then I can get into, here's the outcomes that we want to deliver. Here's what I'm going to do before the event. Here's what I'm going to do post the event, all those types of things. They begin to believe me. I have credibility because I took the time to listen to them.
What's the most important sales tactic that you use on a regular basis to really get the gig?
Yeah, it's really bam fam. Book a meeting from a meeting. This is never letting them off the hook until I've got another meeting set up. This is so deadly when we hear, well, thanks for the information, we'll get back to you. Now, how I set that up is because I never send a proposal over, I never send over anything without legs attached. I mean, that means there's a phone call. We are doing a phone call, period. And I'm sending it over. Now, they may say, hey, Mark, why don't you just send us over the information, and thank you, and I'll take it to the committee and so forth. And I might say, you know what? Yeah, okay, great. Already in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't want to. And the way I do this is, hey, I've got a plan put together, but I've got several questions, and this is what I'll set them up. So yeah, hey, I'm going to develop a plan, but I know I'm going to have questions. So let's grab 20 minutes for me to just make sure I get these questions. So I make sure I get the right plan for you. Yeah, and if I put their interest first ahead of mine, they generally will sit there and say, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I was also going to say, and I got a copy of your book that you gave out, The Making of a Mind for Sales at Influence, but of your 33 strategies, which one do you think is the most applicable to speakers?
Well, the most applicable one is really, it's how you start the day. We in the speaking community love our business because we're very flexible. We can take time off when we want, yada, yada. But you know what? That gets us into backsliding habits. You look at the top performers in the industry, they're hustling. And they start the day literally the same way every day. And I'm going to challenge, I am up every morning at 4:55 a.m. 4:55 a.m. I'm up, and I have a very set routine. And this is regardless whether I'm on the road, whether I'm at two. It doesn't matter. And like this morning, I had a breakfast at 7. Well, gee, I could have gotten up at 6 o'clock. No, I get up at still 4:55, 4:56. Right, boom, right there. And why? Because there's something magical in my mind. I want to be up before 5 a.m. That's just something magical. Years ago, I used to get up at 4:15. So I'm sliding a little bit. But anyway, but here's the thing. It's every day I have a very set routine. I have right beside me, I have a list. These are the phone calls. These are the people who I'm going to be talking to today, Tuesday. I have a very set list. And I put that list together last night. And then I just reviewed it this morning. It was one of the things I do in that first hour I'm up in the morning. In other words, it's discipline. Discipline wins the day. What happens too many times is we, as speakers, say, yeah, I got to make some calls. But then I get caught up playing out on Facebook. I get caught up looking at YouTube videos. I get caught up in this. And I don't get the phone calls made. And it comes down to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, I don't want to call him now, and I'll just call him tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes around and you got stuff in the morning, so you're going to do it in the afternoon. Afternoon rolls around, you get busy. I'll just call him the next day. And what happens is the phone calls never get made. This is why I'm adamant for me. 5 conversations a day, period. Now I may miss a day. That I may have some days that I may only get 3 or 4, but I'm going to make it up by the end of the week. I am going to make it up by the end of the week. Friday, I had been traveling last week and I was sitting in the Admiral's Club, Charlotte Airport, Friday afternoon, and I was making a lot of phone calls because I was short. And I was touching base with people, calling people, hoping that people would answer the phone. And you know what I found? Friday afternoons, people love to talk on the phone. Hello. Don't think for a moment, oh, I can't call that bureau on a front. I can't call that meeting planner. I can't call that CEO on the front. No, yes, you can. Because you know what? They're working. And by you calling them, it demonstrates to them that you're working too. Yeah.
Before we jump back to the show, here's a moment with former Naval Officer and Commander, author, NSA member, CSP and CPAE, Dr. Mary Kelly. Mary, what does being part of NSA mean to you?
The National Speakers Association is where professional speakers go to meet each other, learn best practices from each other, and most importantly, figure out ways to elevate your speaking and your speaking profession. When I was in the Navy, whatever job I had, I always joined the association that aligned with that job. When I was a human resources director, I joined SHRM. When I was the chief of police, I joined the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Because when you're trying to get better, you join the association that speaks directly to your issues.
And thank you for your service.
Oh, thanks.
Well, a question I want to ask you from a previous guest is, in this world where we're so overwhelmed with reading and watching videos and learning, many feel behind, but we've got to be on stages, on planes, selling, writing our books, creating our courses. What are you doing to stay on top of the industry, to stay on top of all industries, because they hire us as the experts that we're expected to know a lot of these things that are to keep us at the top of the industry?
Wow, great question. I listen to podcasts every day when I'm working out and or running, period. So right now, the big podcast I'm listening to besides Speakernomics is Acquired. It's a deep dive into tech companies, consumer packaged goods companies, etc. Fascinating podcast. I'll listen to that. 2, I always do long form reading, at least 30 minutes a day. Right now, I'm reading the book by Nito Quabain that he just came out with on High Point University. I almost said High Profit University. No, High Point University. And I've got a whole stack of books right after that. The book after that is right sitting on the left, Selling Your Way In by Christy Jones. So I read a lot of sales books, but I read a lot of just straight business. So I'm feeding audio, and I'm also reading, but I got to be absolutely disciplined. And I also, there are various key websites that I make sure I stay very much in tune with. So you're right. We do have to, because here's the whole thing. we can find ourselves in conversations, random conversations. So, you're here, we're talking open heart surgery with, some surgeons. I mean, I scream when I hear blood, but I've got to be at least a little bit intelligent to shut up and listen. But you know what? I'm going to listen and I'm going to learn. I may be dealing with electrical engineers. I mean, again, it's just, remember, we don't get paid for having all the answers. No, we get paid for listening. And I want to be the person who can go into any conversation anywhere. I love cocktail parties. I love the receptions the night before, the lunches and so forth. And don't run from them speakers. Embrace them, because it's how you get to know more people. Walk the trade show floor. Introduce yourself to every vendor there. Hey, thank you for sponsoring. Thank you. Hey, how's the show going? What? Learn, listen. That's how you become more knowledgeable. So when you do find yourself in situations, you're not a bumbling idiot, but at least you know maybe enough to kind of keep your head above water.
So I got a question for you. What is a question that you would like to ask a future guest on this show?
I would like to ask, how often do you stay in touch with your past clients, and how do you go about doing it? A critical piece, because there's always more business from our past clients if we stay engaged with them. I'd love to know what other people are doing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's do a quick recap then based on Mark's really smart sales advice. Number 1, 5 conversations a day. That's what he does. It's like what we talked about with Willie Jolly. Talk to people, talk to more people. But don't just call people, though. If you're hunting, look for the bullseye and target your approach to the right calls. It took him on one gig 46 touches over 18 months. It may take 46 touches on a lot, and a lot of people give up after 3 or 4 or 5, but don't give up. Look, every good baseball, we talked a little bit about baseball metaphors as well today. A lot of your best hitters of all time, their averages were high, but guess what was a lot higher? Their number of strikeouts and when they didn't get on base. Number 2, don't wait for the callback. Create a reason. Make it about them and make it about how you can help them solve their problem. Keep selling. Find that commonality, and it ain't always easy. But Bam Fam is a part of that sales mindset that you need to embrace. Number 3, how do we connect with a person? So many people get myopic with a lens from which they're trying to sell through every problem-solving goal. His goal is figuring out what are the outcomes for them, for the event, what's going to make them happy. It's what they want so that we can help serve their audience. Don't get off as well through all the questions you want to answer. Give a reason to follow up and get them a reason to come back to you. Mark, I know I'm going to see you speaking at another NSA event or somewhere on a stage soon. Any last closing thoughts before we speak ourselves off this stage?
Hey, you know what? We become better speakers when we take the time to listen and learn from other speakers. And that's what Speakernomics is all about. That's why I love this podcast. I love it. NSA is a fantastic organization. I know there's a lot of people who watch this, listen to this, that are not members of NSA. If you're not a member of NSA, check it out, because I'll tell you what, it's where people come to elevate the experience of speaking. We build a better business. We become a better speaker because of NSA.
Great. Friends, make sure to join us at Speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I'm Kenneth Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast, Speakernomics, and this has been another fantastic episode of the show. Thank you, Mark, for being part of NSA and lending your advice to the show. And to everyone listening, thank you for the privilege of your time. And remember, Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.